The Gentleman by Jay Ryan. Cadence never really dated much. He wasn't a particularly bad-looking guy. He just found more joy in building things than he did interacting with people. Sure, he made his living helping people fix their houses, but when it came to conversation, he mostly just stared in an almost creepy way, but not creepy enough for people to worry. They just called him eccentric and mostly thought he was a good guy. In fact, Cadence said so little most of the people in the town didn't really think about him most of the time. They were kind of busy with their cell phones and social media and their own lives. When he went to stores, the cashiers just told him how much he owed. And honestly, come to think of it, they didn't even say good day or anything. Man, customer service is continually going downhill, isn't it? His family had left town. No one remembers why. Even Cadence, who had been busy building a model of his one-day future home, was too busy building said model to hear everyone leave. He came upstairs and they were gone. A note was left, but someone had spilled coffee on it, and whatever it said was now just a splotch. The phone book was packed, and unfortunately for Cadence, his phone had fell victim to the table saw earlier that day as he was building. Also, he didn't like how much his privacy was invaded by Google, so he had sync turned off and all his contacts were lost. He was 18 and had a job at the time, so he just took over paying the bills on the house and living a little more solitary life than before. One day, his neighbor Tom Todd asked him, "Hey, what happened to your parents? I haven't seen them in a few weeks." Cadence quickly did the math in his head and responded while looking half at the bushes in between them and half looking at the side of Tom Todd's house. "Yeah, it's been 2 years. I'm not really sure." Tom Todd should have been embarrassed that he didn't notice his neighbors had been gone for 2 years. But he had gotten a text message and instead abandoned any form of empathy or sympathy and blurted out, "Oh, good for them." Before Cadence could say anything, Tom Todd went into his house and Cadence was left to think, good for them? Luckily for Cadence, he was such a loner he barely interacted with his family, and their absence wasn't as crushing as it would be for most 20-year-olds. If he had spent a little more time appreciating them, he might have noticed when they said, but he didn't notice, and so we'll never know. Instead, the only thing in place of what they said is a rhythmic knocking of a hammer he was using to build. The only time people began to notice Cadence was when he started remodeling his house. His style was very unique, so unique that people actually took the time to take a quick picture with their phone and upload it to Instagram. This made him popular for about 15 seconds, but thank God for older people because they actually took a genuine interest and asked if he would help remodel their houses. For what seemed like the first time in his life, Cadence had a genuine smile. He went around and built a name for himself as not only a great carpenter and handyman, but someone who would make you something that only you could have. Not only that, he actually finished the work. Parentheses. If you're too young to ever have dealt with contractors, you won't understand this joke. Please reread this when you're older. I'm serious, you'll appreciate it more. End parentheses. So, his life became a little less quiet as he went around building amazing additions onto people's homes. But still, he never really became that social. He once went to a bar and sat there. The bartender said, "What are you having?" He replied, "Maybe just a Coke." The bartender returned with a giant glass filled with colors that couldn't possibly resemble a Coke. "What is this?" Cadence soothed. "Orange soda, tequila, cranberry sauce, clam juice, and a tiny splash of vermouth." The bartender confused everyone in the history of the world. Seriously, there was multiple studies done about that drink, how that drink order possibly ever came from Cadence saying, "Maybe just a Coke," and nothing was ever figured out. Lives were wasted and ruined. The only thing that came from the studies was a proper name for the abomination, and the drink was dubbed the Life Ruiner. Cadence took a sip and wanted to vomit, but that's just because alcohol is literally poison. The taste masking the alcohol was surprisingly but since the drink was not a Coke, and was something Cadence really didn't want to drink, he sat at the bar all night. No one talked to him. People walked in and out, and no one even looked at him. It would be strange for anyone else, but it was pretty normal for Cadence. Even the bartender didn't talk to him because Cadence didn't drink his drink, so he didn't need a refill. Near the end of the night, the small amount of liquid he consumed decided it needed to get out of him, and he went to the bathroom. Bar bathrooms have never been great, but for some reason that night, Cadence had an extreme OCD moment and couldn't get himself to open the door to leave. He thought, well, I'll just wait for someone else to come open the door, and that way I won't have to get whatever that red and green stuff on the handle is on my hand. But no one came. He paced for hours, but he couldn't get himself to open the door. He grabbed his side and writhed in agony, but no one came to the door. He noticed the lights in the bar go out because under the bathroom door was now black. His panic became so much that he started to curl up in a fetal position, but he also didn't want to touch the equally disgusting floor, and so he floated. No one ever saw it, but he floated. In an insane moment of panic and claustrophobia, his brain had broken the laws of physics, and he floated in the fetal position, consumed by mania, in a bar bathroom, with no one around, in a town that barely noticed him. He was achieving something amazing.